So, it's about high time we get into the IIHF World Championship discussion, isn't it? Now, I know there are a bunch of other guys that we can talk about throughout this tournament. There are Canadiens guys, there are Red Wings guys, and there are many players in between that are participating, scoring points. Yuri Slafkovsky, in particular, had himself a very frustrating moment that was caught by one of the video cameras. But in this video, what I wanted to do was go over to the Americans and talk about some of the updates we have seen about Montreal Canadiens guys and maybe potential Montreal Canadiens guys in the process. Yeah, you already know from the title and the thumbnail. This was posted onto the Habs subreddit and I loved the picture. It's so great. Cole Caufield and his good friend Trevor Zegras. It's the two guys on the bench kind of cuddling into each other. Obviously, there's a good bromance that has carried itself throughout the past few years with these two players. But with this idea in mind, there's a conversation that we can talk about in regards to Trevor Zegras. We could also talk about just the tournament itself. Actually, you know what? That sounds like a good idea. Let's get into that here. So, Cole Caufield so far at the IIHF World Championships has himself 2 points in 2 games played. He scored 2 points, 2 assists in the 6-1 win over Germany yesterday. He had 0 points when the Americans lost 5-2 to the Swedes. And if you go over to Team USA as a whole, and you acknowledge who is producing points, hey, Johnny Gaudreau has gone out there with some point production, Seth Jones as well, so very intriguing names that don't really show up too much in the regular season are producing now. Brock Nelson, Michael Kesselring, Matt Boldy, Pinto, Caufield, lots of guys getting in on the action, and Trevor Zegras has himself 1 goal in the 2 games, 0 assists, so he is at 1 total point. And with this entire Trevor Zegras, Cole Caufield conversation in mind, I know we've talked about it a bunch, but I wanted to use this video as a new opportunity to dive into Canadiens fans' psyche. Because, as we had said, the Habs post that showcased the picture of Caufield and Zegras did go kind of viral. There were a bunch of people that upvoted it, but a lot of the comments seemed to have a similar mindset, and I wanted to use this video as an opportunity to explore that. To open things up, we'll go over the first comment in the Habs sub. Reading these comments, you'd never guess that these are the fans of the team that finished dead last in their division and don't have any scoring threats besides one line. Why exactly is GSkins31 go out there and saying that? Well, because some of the top comments go out there and say this. We dodged a bullet with Pierre-Luc Dubois. Now it's the same thing with Zegras. He's a guy who only cares about his goals and image and having his plays go viral. He's injury-prone so far in his career, and he hasn't even been all that impressive. Take a pass on him. Another comment goes out there and says, Zegras is not what we need at all, let alone what we need to give up assets for. I've been watching Zegras at the IIHF Worlds. I'm not impressed. There are better options than Zegras out there this offseason. And there's a lot of comments pretty much going in that same territory that Zegras is not really somebody the Habs should go for. And believe me, we've seen it in my comment section before as well. I'm not blind to all of y'all's perspective and analysis here. A lot of y'all are saying the same things about Pierre-Luc Dubois with Trevor Zegras nowadays. Hey, is he a problem? Is he this? Is he that? We don't want him, etc., etc. But if you're asking me for my personal opinion, I'd probably say that Zegras has, let's just say, more projectability than Pierre-Luc Dubois, because when you try and compare and contrast the quote-unquote problems that these guys had in their seasons, I would say they're not really cut from the same cloth. Pierre-Luc Dubois had work ethic issues that made themselves known every single time after a few years playing for a team. He ended up not really playing all too well, his engagement was down, and fan sentiment shifted towards him having some sort of a prima donna attitude. For Trevor Zegras, you can say that a prima donna attitude is kind of there, but I feel like his overall skill set is a lot more projectable into the short-term future than Pierre-Luc Dubois is. Mostly because Zegras is a flashy guy, he likes to play with the spotlight, and he loves being the center of attention. That's the kind of guy that, when you pair it with the skills that he has, he ends up creating some of the most crazy offensive plays you'll ever seen. I'm not saying that's what the Canadiens need per se, but I'm saying that I think it's a little bit more projectable to say and conclude that Zegras is going to be a more productive player in the long term than Pierre-Luc Dubois. Also, there's the fact that Zegras is friends with Cole Caufield, and there is that connection there. This certainly wouldn't be the same as PLD coming over to a team where he has pretty much no ties, obviously aside from the Quebec connection to Montreal itself. But I did find it interesting how the majority of Canadiens fans on social media are saying, yeah, no, I don't want him. While the top comment of the entire thread says, hey, we'll repeat it once more, reading these comments, you would never guess that these are the fans of the team that finished dead last in their division and don't have any scoring threats. Should there not be an emphasis on going after guys who can produce points? A reply goes out there and asks, even if offense is what should be priority number one after fixing our defense, why should we go after Zegras that has many red flags around him? I get that people are tired of losing or overzealous to succeed. It does not mean we have to risk taking him. You can turn a blind eye over the fact that he's a risk. Why not just be patient? Next year isn't it either. Another reply goes out there and says, the only place I've heard of red flags in Zegras is in this sub over the past season. What are they exactly? And in response to this, there's a very good analysis done on Zegras' flaws, so to speak, by Dexteris. He's pretty soft on the board, he often does not have intensity while coming back to his defensive zone, he cheats a lot in his defensive responsibilities to create offense, but create more turnovers that way too. He does not seem to respond well to coach directive either. I once was really curious because all I heard was the difficulties he had to sign the contract he wanted. I spent a good amount of time reading on the Ducks subreddit and all I said comes from there. Not only once, repeated many times. They like him, he's exciting. I just don't see in his character what Hugo seems to want, even less what Martin St. Louis would want out of his players. And then there's the devil's advocate response, which is, hey, those all seem like minor problems if he can create a second scoring line for us. Martin St. Louis seems to get the best out of players like that too. And so, when it comes to some of these issues, I do feel like Zegras and his progression, you could say, has the room to grow much more beyond that, and I don't see a similar kind of Pierre-Luc Dubois situation here either. PLD, as we had said, kind of gave up on all his teams. Sure, you could say that Trevor Zegras in a way cheats for offense and he might not be the best in his own zone, but I don't know if that's necessarily a work ethic issue or if it's just kind of what he's been accustomed to doing throughout the course of his hockey playing career. When he's played in different teams and situations, I mean, he's always had guys to cover for him defensively, like Matt Boldy in the NTDP, for example. And now, playing for an Anaheim Ducks squad that boasts the likes of very solid two-way players like McTavish and Carlsson, it becomes a bit easier to understand why he'll take a back seat in that respect. I don't think it's uncoachable, I think it's just kind of what he's used to. But maybe I'm just being a Zegras truther, and I believe in the guy a lot, and I would like to see him in Montreal, so you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about that entire situation there. Going back over to Cole Caufield, though, we did see these guys suit up together on similar lines. I think they were playing with Brady Tkachuk as well to open up the tournament, but ever since the first game against the Swedes, things started to get shifted around a little bit, so who really knows how the rest of the tournament is going to go? We'll wait until the end to evaluate where exactly all the pieces lie and what we can see out of these potential combinations here. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Cole Caufield and Trevor Zegras, how these guys have indeed been playing together, and there is that shared bromance that's still very apparent, and whether or not that could translate into NHL play in 2024-2025. What are your thoughts about the idea of Canadiens fans not liking Zegras? And if you were in charge, if you had the opportunity to make that decision, where would you go with that? Who exactly is it that you would want the Canadiens to target? If it is Zegras, what is the price? If it's not, then what else do you think should be done? Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.